blueprint. Biblical tools for building each other up. So boys and girls, I want to start with a question for you. Which would you prefer? To have someone tear you down and say, oh man, that shirt is ugly, or boy, you sure are a lousy basketball player, or, just kind of tear you down? Does that feel good? Do you like that? Obviously, no. Nobody likes to be made fun of, laughed at, tearing others down. Or would you rather have somebody build you up and say, hey, you did a great job there. I really like how you did that. You're a good friend. I enjoy playing with you. Do you like that? Obviously. But yet, for some reason, somehow, people still tear each other down, don't they? And a lot of times it's because they feel bad themselves inside. Kind of angry on the inside because maybe something's been bothering them. So when somebody tears you down, try not to take it too personally. More than likely it's because that person is going through a rough time. And maybe rather than throwing an insult back at them and saying, well, you're even uglier, or you're even a worse basketball player, say, I'm sorry you feel that way. I hope you have a better day tomorrow. Or maybe something else that would help build up. Today we're going to be talking about that. Tearing down or building up. Paul writes, therefore encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing. He had met with his church in Thessalonica. They had come to faith in Jesus Christ, and he shared a lot of things with them. And now he's wrapping up his letter, and he's got a lot of things still on his mind. And he just quick writes down some brief instructions. And one of these that we're going to look at today is how we are to build one another up. And he says, we urge you, brothers and sisters, warn those who are idle and disruptive, and encourage the disheartened. Help the weak. Be patient with everyone. Make sure that nobody pays back wrong for wrong, but always strive to do what is good to each other and to everyone else. Encourage each other and build each other up, because there were some problems in Thessalonica too. Just like we have problems here. One is that there was a concern about the end times. What do they look like, and when is it going to happen? And what happened to those who've already died? And over the last 2 weeks, we've talked about some of those issues. But another issue that Paul addresses is this concern about those who were idle. These two things could be related to each other. Commentators aren't sure, but it's perhaps that the Thessalonians heard about Jesus' return, assumed it would be very soon, and said to each other, why go to work tomorrow morning? Jesus is going to be returning any day now. Why should I go to work? Why should I put in the effort? Why should I bother, doing all these things if Jesus is, his return is just around the corner? And so maybe people were quitting their jobs. Maybe they weren't doing things, and life was starting to get a little chaotic because nothing was getting done. We don't know for sure, but that's a possibility. But anyway, whatever it was, there was a group of people in Thessalonica who were just idle and disruptive. In fact, back in chapter 4, we didn't cover these verses when we were in chapter 4, but Paul writes, and we urge you, brothers and sisters, to do so more and more, and to make it your ambition to lead a quiet life. You should mind your own business and work with your hands, just as we told you, so that your daily life may win the respect of outsiders, and that you will not be dependent on anybody. But our passage today is in chapter 5, and Paul starts out and says, we urge you, brothers and sisters, warn those who are idle and disruptive. It was a problem back in Thessalonica. You know what? It's a problem in our society today. There are people who are idle. There are people who are disruptive. They don't want to work. Don't want to get a job. They just cause a lot of problems. There are people out there like that. That is true. And for those of us who are working hard. Our solution for them is if people would get a job and not be disruptive, it would solve a lot of problems in our nation. There. We got our nation's problems solved just like that, right? Well, sometimes things aren't quite as simplistic as what our solutions may seem. Yes, for those who are idle and could work, if they could get a job, that would be a good thing. For those who are being disruptive, if they could channel that energy in another direction into something productive, it would be a great help. There's truth in the statement, but it doesn't cover the whole picture. We all have opinions. We all have stories and examples that can prove our point. But this morning, we're going to take a look a little deeper, because politicians, they like to assign blame, don't they? They say, well, it's all those people's fault. That's all those people's fault. Now, follow our way, vote for us. We'll make it all better. But we kind of see how sometimes politics really is unable to deliver on what they promise. But as Christians are called to be understanding. Christians are called to probe deeper into issues, to kind of look behind the scene and see the problem in its broad perspective, to listen, to love their neighbors, and then to work toward the good. That's our calling as followers of Jesus Christ. Not, just simple allegiance to one party or another. Not just, pot shots about here or there and opinions here and there. But to enter deeply into the mess that this world is. And as followers of Jesus Christ, to follow His example in doing good, in helping others, in being a part of the solution rather than a part of the problem. So this morning I want to start out with just a few questions that I think are revealing and might be helpful for you. First of all, were you born in the United States? Are you an American citizen? You don't have to raise your hand. Second, did both of your parents help raise you? Third, do you worry about food? Did you worry about food and shelter growing up? Was that a huge concern in your life? That, boy, where's the next meal going to come from for our family? Did you go to a good school? Did you have access to a higher education or at least some sort of job training? You see, if you had a lot of these things growing up, it wasn't so much a matter of, that you were so brilliant or so hardworking, or it's just that life dealt you a pretty good set of cards. You started out with some good advantages. If these things are true of you, you've started life really with a huge advantage over many, many other people. It's a blessing that you have, that you've been given. Now, another set of questions. Do you own your own home? Or at least in terms of your housing expenses, are they less than 30% of your total income? For some people it is. Housing is very affordable. For others, struggle. Is there more than one wage earner in your household? Sometimes it's a lot easier to make ends meet when there's a number of wage earners living in the same household working together. Do you have reliable transportation so that you can get to and from work, that you don't have to, is the car going to start today? Is it even going to make it there? Do I even have a car? Do I have to walk? Do I have to take a bike? Do I have to take a little scooter? Do I have to take public transportation? Do you have access to reliable transportation? Do you have affordable health care? Not do you like paying for health care? Everybody, right? None of us like paying all those huge premiums, but are they being paid? Is it manageable in the resources that you have between what the employer covers and what you have to give for premiums and deductibles? Can you handle it? Or have you had to make decisions, either I have health care or I don't have health care? Do you not have to pay for daycare? You see, some families, if you go to work, it's not an option. Kids need to be watched somehow, somewhere. And many people, it's a significant chunk of their income just simply paying for daycare? And then, are you able to save some money? That if things are going along and smooth sailing, are you able to set aside a little bit, maybe for some retirement, or maybe for an emergency fund, or maybe even a vacation or whatever, that there is some disposable income, things that you can make choices about and what to do. You see, if you have these things, it's again a great advantage. But if these things are not true of you, you may be living one crisis away from poverty. That just one significant health issue without having health care, one car breakdown which inhibits you from going to work, or just whatever it may be, one of these things, one crisis may come which would kind of put you underwater, unable to make it, beginning to worry about your shelter, about food, or your health. A lot of these things are true of people in our country. This morning I wanted to introduce you to an acronym that has become popular and helpful. ALICE, a name of a person, but it's really an acronym that means asset limited, income constrained, and employed. This is a growing number of individuals and families who are working but are unable to afford the basic necessities of housing, food, childcare, health care, and transportation. If you do the research in Elkhart County, you'll find that 24% of the households, that's almost 1 in 4, are ALICE, are working but still struggling to get by. You add on top of that the 14% who are below the poverty level, and you have over 1 in 3 households, 71,250 people in our county, that every day is a struggle. Every day is there's tension, there's stress, because you're not sure what the next day is going to bring. That blew me away when I thought about this. This is our county. Now, sometimes statistics, they're just a bunch of numbers or whatever, but who is Alice? What do these people look like? It's someone like Maria. Maria is a single mom to little Angela. Angela is her little angel, the love of her life. But it was a number of years back when Angela was 2. Maria went through a bitter divorce, had to separate, had to find her own apartment. Now, she's a bank teller. A bank teller, that's a good job, right? But her transportation is not reliable. Her car doesn't always start. It's an older car. She can't replace it. Friends have kind of helped her along the way, but when her car doesn't start, at least she lives close enough to the bank. She could walk there or take a bike. It's not always pleasant, but it was close enough she could do it. But now the bank has decided to close that branch. They've offered Maria another position in another branch, but that is way on the other side of town. It's a crisis not of her own doing, but now what is she going to do? Find another apartment? Have you checked out the prices of apartments in Elkhart County lately? They have been going up sky high. She's better off staying where she is. But how do you get to work? What if the car doesn't start? And now her job becomes in jeopardy if she doesn't show up for work. She doesn't want to move because she loves the school that Angela goes to. That's where her friends are. She doesn't want to relocate to the other town. This is Alice. This is someone who is dealing with a stressful life. Meet Jerry. Jerry is paralyzed from the waist down. He had a horrible car accident when he was in his 30s. Jerry is a computer programmer. He's a knowledgeable, he's a smart guy. But when he was out of work for 9 months following his accident, it was hard to find something steady afterwards. In the meantime, all these kids coming out of college had all their skills. They were much better. They were more up on all the latest and greatest in computer programming. And Jerry felt himself becoming more and more obsolete. Besides, you couldn't prove it, of course, but it just seemed like when he showed up to the interview in a wheelchair, The interview never got off the ground because employers were really reluctant to hire somebody. What is this going to do to our health care? What does this, mean for us with handicap accessibility in our building? And he never heard those things directly, of course, because you can't. But he could feel it. It was there. He wants to work. But right now, going on full-time disability just seems like the only option available to him. These are real people. Real people in our county. Real people who struggle day in and day out. It's part of the problem that is going on in America. We can say there's idleness, that people are disruptive, but there's some reasons behind much of what goes on. I also want to help you take a look at a piece of the pie, what wealth in America looks like. Now, let's just imagine that there is 100 people in America and 100 pieces of pie. 100 people represent all the population, and the 100 pieces of pie represent all of the wealth. Now, if, you say, whoa, 100 people, 100 pieces of pie, if you grew up right and you learned to share or whatever, everybody has one piece of pie, everybody's happy, right? The trouble is that we call that socialism, right? We force, no, you can't have more than one piece of pie. If you make more than one, we've got to give that to somebody else. And we've decided as a country we don't like socialism, we like capitalism, that if you work harder or you're smarter or whatever, you can have more pieces of pie. But the more pieces of pie you have, the less pieces of pie other people have. So when you start to divide up what is the current state of people and wealth in America, there are 10 people, 10%, who have 10 pieces of pie. And we're saying, oh, well, that sounds pretty good. But you notice I took the second line of 10 there and the 9th line of the pieces of pie. That's because 9 people above that 10% have 40 pieces of pie. 9% of the population control 40% of the wealth in America. But it doesn't stop there. See that one little one there? 1% of the population, one person has 40 pieces of pie. Say, wow, you mean like 20% of the population have 90% of the wealth of America? Yeah. That's how things are breaking down these days. And then you take a look at the next 20%. They've got 8 pieces of pie between the 20 of those. The next 20% only have 2 pieces of pie. And you're, hold it, Pastor Dave. You've already eaten all the pie. And there's still 40 people left. Yeah. The next 20 have no wealth. It's not that they don't earn any money, but it's just in, out, and there's nothing left at the end of the day or the end of the week or the end of the month. They have no assets. They have no resources to draw upon. Well, hold on. There's still another 20. That's right. Those are the people who are underwater. That even if they did earn a little bit of money, that piece of pie would immediately go to those on top because they're so far in debt. That is the situation with wealth in America today. I'm not advocating for socialism. I'm just saying this is a problem. It's a recipe for disaster, and we see a lot of the anger and discontent and disruptiveness in our society, or just the giving up and despair, because people say, why bother? I am so far behind. And even if I work hard, I'll never get there. I'll never get there. These are the things that we as Christians need to understand as we dig deeper into our society, into the problems that are inherent and are going on. And don't come up with just simply our quick little solutions, but say, wow, maybe we've got to address this on a number of different levels. Remember, Christians are called to understand, to love, and to work toward the better. So Paul in his passage says, we urge you, brothers and sisters, to warn those who are idle and disruptive. And we need to. That if you're able to work, keep going. If you're being disruptive, be a positive influence. Use that energy in a constructive way. Those things are true. But we don't stop there, and neither did Paul. He also writes, then encourage the disheartened. Help the weak. Be patient with everyone. Paul is not saying you have to hand out, redistribute the wealth and take away and give here and so forth. He's just saying, but as Christians, there's much more that we can do to help people get ahead, to help people get back on track, to encourage, to help, to be patient. That goes a long way in lifting spirits and motivating others to get back into the productive end of society or find some way to make ends meet. To not pay back wrong for wrong, the retaliation, but no, to strive to do what is good for each other and for everyone else. So what does that look like? What are these biblical tools for building up? Paul gives us just a quick blueprint, but what might that look like? Fleshing that out. First of all, we just need to learn to listen to other people's story. That if we take time to hear what kind of home life somebody had growing up, what kind of influences did they have from parents or teachers or whatever, we may realize that they were just never taught basic job skills, interview skills, social skills, learning patience and perseverance, hanging in there, delayed gratification, lots of things that many of us grew up with, others did not. And when we learn to listen to their story, we begin to realize they may have started out with a huge disadvantage. And then what would really be supportive and encouraging to this person? Sometimes a handout is not the right answer. It just simply helps that person get along and then teaches them further dependence. Unfortunately, truly helping people means entering into their story, entering into their mess, listening to what they believe that they could do and how to step forward, and then say, if you had some support, if you had some encouragement, if you had a couple of extra resources, what would you be able to do? And helping them to be a part of their own solution and take steps forward. And then maybe asking, what is one thing that you can do? Sometimes when we look at all these huge problems, there's no way I can solve all that. Probably true. But there is something each one of us can do. There is something that each one of us, someone that God has put in our path, that maybe in that person's life, you can make a difference. You're not going to solve all the problems in Elkhart County or in America or the world, but you certainly can be part of the solution for that person. What might that be? We live in a wonderful community here in Goshen. There are a ton of resources that are out there. Become familiar with them. The city publishes a book called Goshen's Resource Book. Inside is just a whole listing of nonprofit organizations, information and referrals on health and wellness and housing and shelter, immigration and legal services, youth programs, education, public library, transportation, food and financial assistance, employment, arts and culture. There's so much out there, and just say, maybe I could volunteer. Maybe I could contribute. Maybe I could just find out even what is out there, so that when I hear somebody say, hey, did you go over here? This organization does a great job in helping people in your situation, becoming more informed or getting involved. Here at church, we've got some excellent things that are going on. There's cadets and gems and kingdom kids, 180 youth, or we spend time with youth. and be that positive encouragement, positive role models for them. The deacons work hard and with benevolence and supporting community agencies. There's meals and transportation that perhaps we could provide, and service projects that we do here. Let's look at a story of Tommy. Tommy was just a few weeks into this first year of school, and he already had a reputation. His unruly behavior had disrupted the classroom many, many times, and his teacher was at a loss in what to do. His mom was worried, and the school leaders had already kind of like written him off. But then hope arrived through a volunteer, through a mentor, a lady named Rhonda. Rhonda was Tommy's Kids Hope USA mentor. And they said to Rhonda, "Rhonda, are you sure? But something is, yeah, I want Tommy. I think we can get along." So they started. When they met, Tommy was pretty resistive to all of this. But they spent time together. Rhonda was there every week. She was encouraging. She was helpful. They played games together. She gave him little pointers like, "Okay, Tommy, you lost this game, but let's play another game." And helped him to learn patience and perspective and not just simply blow up at every little sign of frustration. Rhonda and the prayer partner prayed for Tommy daily. And as the year went on, everybody was beginning to recognize the changes. The angry outbursts were less and less. Tommy's behavior was improving in the classroom. With that, his academics started to go forward. He could actually complete an assignment without just giving up in frustration. And Tommy, who was once, even at a young age, already labeled and heading in an awful direction, now had hope, a positive influence, and an opportunity to succeed. Why? Why should we get involved? I mean, we've got enough problems of our own, right? There's so many things going on. We are so busy. Why? Why would somebody take the time and effort? Why would somebody give up valuable resources to lend a hand to another? Why would somebody enter into another person's mess? Why would somebody choose to embrace suffering and pain to help somebody else? Why do we think that our efforts will make a difference? Well, we follow someone who thought we were worth the effort. We follow someone who asks us to encourage the disheartened, to help the weak, to be patient, to make sure that nobody pays back wrong for wrong, but to always strive to do what is good for each other and for everyone else. We follow one who laid down his life for us.